Hey YouTube, what's going on? Well, I have another mini project. Hope it's a mini project, may turn into a maxi project. I've been working on doing all the trim and millwork in this house. I finished all the windows. If you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm trying to do my windows in kind of a Craftsman style look. Same with the doors. But I've saved the last two windows. I got two to go, and I saved them for last because I knew they were going to be a little bit more challenging to do, and I haven't really wanted to tackle those to this point. So I've saved these for last because I knew they were going to be hard to do, or at least I think they are. And the reason is because they have an arch. So you can see behind me, it's not a real hard arch, but it's just a little eyebrow. And what we have to do is figure out a way to build the extension jamb to accommodate that arch and still look good and fit snug and not look all People's Republic. Now, the way that this is accomplished a lot of times is when you buy the windows, you can buy a jamb kit that already has all the pieces cut out and the bends already made, but I didn't buy one of those. Another thing you can do is buy this flex mold. That stuff's pretty expensive, so I'm not going to buy any of that. But I have an idea of a technique. Haven't seen it done, so we may be breaking new ground on millwork here. But I haven't seen it done, but I think it's going to work pretty good. I don't know, it may be a disaster, and I'll be running out to the contractor yard this afternoon to buy some flex mold. But we'll see. Unfortunately, this window's not going to build itself. Let's walk down to the shop, start cutting out some parts. The first thing I want to address on this project is that arch, because I think that's going to be the biggest pain to deal with. And what we need to do is build a template or a jig that we can use to bend this material around. And I'm not going to tell you what the material is. That's a big secret, which I'll reveal later on in the video, this mystery material. But the way that we're going to build this jig is we're going to take this curve template. Bought this thing at Woodcraft. It's pretty cool. I use it sometimes. And the way it works is you can, lay it up against something and find a radius and then take these little thumb wheels and tighten it down and hold it into place. So that's what I did. I've already done this. I couldn't really get a video. It's hard to get the camera set up in there. But I took this, laid it around the outside edge of the radius on the window, found the radius, brought it back down to the shop. Now I took a piece of this sign material, this corrugated plastic, you see garage sale signs and stuff printed on. I transferred the radius onto that material, then I cut it out. Then I bought some of this old whiteboard, old trash board, used for, I don't know what you use it for, trim boards I guess. And I transferred onto the board, cut it out on the bandsaw, cleaned it up on the sander, and I ended up with this, okay? I took 4 of these, they're 1 inch wide, took 4 of them so I'd have a 4-inch surface. Remember our jamb is 3 7/8. So I took 4 of them, laminated them together to create this template, or jig, or whatever. So that is what I'm going to use to bend this mystery material around. So I'm ready to start bending, so I'm going to cut out some parts, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, revealing the mystery material. A lot of different ways you can bend material, wood, whatever. You have to steam it, soak it in water. It just seems very complicated. I'm going to use PVC board, and the reason is because it has a little bit of flex already built into it. But what we're going to do is we're going to kerf this material. And when we do that, here's a scrap. It just lets it flex really easy. Okay? And once we get the kerfs cut into it, we're going to lay it over our template, screw it into place, and hit it with some heat. And what that'll do is relax that board enough that it'll, bend around that template, and when it cools, it'll retain its shape, I think. We'll see. I expect it'll want to flex back a little bit, but I have an idea how to address that. Now, the way that we're going to do the kerfs, we know that all the way around this jamb, we're going to have a 1/4 inch reveal where the casing will come up to it. So I'm going to kerf this deep enough that I'll leave about 5/16 of an inch to account for the reveal, and leave about a 1/16 to play with. So these kerfs will be, I can't do that math, this is 3/4 inch board, whatever that works out to, that's how deep those kerfs will be. So let me go ahead and set the miter saw up to do that, and I'll come back in just a minute. Somebody needs to change the battery in the smoke detector. I'll come back in just a minute and show you how we're going to lay this out to cut these kerfs. Okay, got the miter saw set up. You know, obviously when you're using a miter saw, it's made to cut through material, but any decent miter saw will have some kind of a stop built into it. And I've set this stop, you can adjust it, and what it does is it's going to stop the blade at a predetermined depth and not let it go any deeper, and that's going to allow us to make the kerf cuts on this material. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, here we are. Now all I got to do is just attach it to our template or to our jig and put some heat on it and see what happens. If it starts wanting to flex back even more, I've got room. I can come in here and put some more curves, but I think this is going to work because it's flexing pretty easy. So let's do that. Okay, let's lay the heat to this thing. I've got my Harbor Freight heat gun. You probably have heard my philosophy in other videos about Harbor Freight. If it's something that's not mission critical, I don't mind to spend about 1/3 less of the money on it. So what we're going to do is just lay the heat to it. It'll probably take a little while. You got to be careful. This stuff will melt, and try to concentrate the heat down in the kerfs, and hopefully in a few minutes it'll start taking that radius just fine. We can come back and have our radius holding itself in place and be good to go. If not, I may come in here and cut some more kerfs into the material. So let's get this done, and I'll come back in a few minutes and hopefully we'll have this wrapped up. Okay, I ended up coming back in and cutting another kerf all the way across the radius. The first time I heated it, when I took it apart, it was springing back up quite a bit, so I cut another kerf in, attached it, heated it again, probably heated the thing for 15 minutes, and I'm real pleased with how it turned out this time. There's a little bit of spring, but if you could just feel it, there's not much at all. It took the curve, it took the radius, and it maintained it pretty well. I heated it probably, 15 minutes or something. So I got it really hot, and I think it's going to work fine. What I was worried about was if it wanted to spring back too much, that it would take the pieces of the jamb on the side, and it would push them out. There's not enough, it's not going to happen that way. So this is going to work good. You can see the kerf, I've got enough to have my reveal, and I believe this is going to work. Real good. So let's keep moving. Okay, what we're going to work on now is we're going to go ahead and build this stool part of the jamb. So if you can imagine, the window is right here. So this will slide back in to the rough opening of the window, butt up against the window, and the rough opening is, 3 7/8 of an inch. So what we have to do, we want to have a little bit of a lip that's going to hang over, because right here we'll have our piece of casing that's going to go up. Right here we'll have the inside jamb, and it's going to go like this. Okay, and then we'll have this little bit of overhang right here. So what we need to do is cut out this part right here. That way everything can slide back into the rough opening. The window's 23.5 inches, so it'll just slide back in. We'll have this, little lip that hangs over, and what we're going to do then is we're going to come in with a 3/8 inch round over bit and run that profile and put a little nose on the front of this, so that'll look real nice. So let's take this over to the saw and start cutting out these parts right here, and then we'll come back and see what we have. Okay, so we have our stool cut out, and it turned out really good. I failed to mention a minute ago, this is actually a 1x6. So I didn't have to rip this down at all. It's just a off-the-shelf 1x6, which the actual dimension is 5.5. I don't know, it just worked out perfect that way, so I'm not going to have to rip any stock down. So, we cut the edge of the little part there out, I don't know what you call that, and put a profile, little nose on the front. And what happens is, if this is the window, this will just sit back into the rough opening. The window's here, and our inside jamb, let's see if I can find a board here to show you. The inside jamb will be here like that, and we'll have right here a piece of casing going up this way. So this turned out good. Let's keep moving on. Okay, our piece of PVC here appears to be taking that bend really well. What I need to do now is kind of figure out how all these pieces are going to mate up when I go to putting them together. There'll be like a inside jamb piece, I guess you'd call that a stile, that'll be coming into here. And the way that's going to work, if you can imagine, right here is where that piece is going to travel up through, and it's going to have to mate up right here to this arch. Now there's going to have to be some kind of miter put on it, but I can't hardly figure it out. So what I did is I went up to the window and just actually looked at how the window itself was assembled, and there's a miter on here. Went up there and I found the angle. The angle doesn't make any sense at all to me. It's like 118 degrees. And I can't figure that out. It's probably some heavy duty geometry or calculus or something, because of that arch right there making that angle what it is. But that's how I'm going to cut it. I have a little bit of a problem because I cut that last curve right where, kind of where that miter is going to have to be. Hopefully this is taking that arch, that bend well enough that it won't put a lot of flex on it when I attach it. And of course, when I put the header on, I'll secure it down real well, and that ought to pull it all in and make it real secure. But right now I'm going to have to take this apart and take it over to the miter saw and go ahead and cut that angle right here on it. And when I get that done, I'll go ahead and measure out the inside stiles and match that angle up to it, and go ahead and hopefully be able to build all this and not have any flex or anything like that. Okay, so I have the jam stiles cut out. They'll go in, like this. And I have the opposing angles cut in them so that the arch can mate up real nice. And what I'm going to do is drill a couple of pocket holes in the bottom, and that's how this will attach to this stool. So let me go over and drill these pocket holes and we'll start putting this thing together. Get us a couple of pocket hole screws in this. Good. Let's turn around and do the other side. Okay, we're ready to put this arch on, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get these stiles squared up real good. I'm going to come in with just a old scrap piece of strap and nail it into place so I can keep this thing from wanting to, bow out when I put the arch on. And I've thought about how I'm going to attach this arch, and I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with some of this polyurethane glue, and then I'm just going to come in here with an 18 gauge and just nail the piss out of it. So I'm going to put a little bit of this Type Bond polyurethane glue in here. Probably don't need it, but I don't know that having a little smidge in there is not going to hurt anything. Somebody needs to change the battery in that smoke detector. I'm not going to say it again now. I need about 4 more hands here to be able to do this. Okay, there we have a redneck engineered